that? Now we're good.
All right. We're already recording.
Oh, boy.
We'll delete some of this out. So we've been talking about doing this
no shit.
forever.
Yeah.
We're finally going to do it. So here's the ground rules. It's not technically the Lax Bums podcast, which we discussed over gins a long time ago. It is the official U.S. Lacrosse Michigan podcast. So one, we're going to try to watch our language.
Yeah.
And two, you might be here. I might be here. We're just going to make it a goal that we're going to at least record one of these a week. If we can get on the same schedule, great. If we do more than one a week, great. If you're not here, I'm doing it anyway. If I'm not here, you're doing it anyway. Deal?
Got it. Got it. Done.
So I'm recording, and we're going to put this on YouTube, and I'm going to see if I can get this into an actual podcast subscription kind of thing. So
yeah, why not? There's got to be an easy way to do it, right?
Yeah, it'll be easy. We'll figure it out. So first of all, love the Grateful Dead shirt.
Yeah, I'm in my closet under the stairs.
Yes, I can tell.
This is my man space. This is all I have left.
Well, I'm looking for Harry Potter in there somewhere, but I don't see him.
Yeah, he's nowhere near, not near me at all.
All right. So the whole point of this thing is I want to talk to people in the state of Michigan about lacrosse. I want to talk to men's, women's, NCAA, NAIA, MCLA, D1, D3, MHSAA, youth, travel, you name it. There is so many. We have 7,600 and change members of U.S. Lacrosse here in the state of Michigan. 7,600.
And I have John Locy calling me, trying to get in on our shit. So I don't know how hold on. Locy.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, we're Drouin and I are doing the podcast recording right now. So
that's awesome.
How can you be the first guest next week?
Oh, of course. I'm in.
Can you hear this? Is this working, the phone thing?
Yeah. How's it sound on your end?
No, can you hear it, Drouin?
I am not talking. I can hear Locy.
Oh, you can hear Locy? So here's let's just talk to Locy's first guest, right, on the phone. Low tech, first guest. So I was thinking, let's talk high school for a sec. Now, the elders, who we all kind of had our opinions on, high school lacrosse, everybody making the playoffs, that could save lacrosse this year. I'm sure that's, a pandemic is what they were thinking of. But, we could have a very short season, but since everybody makes the tournament, you could have a tournament.
Yeah, no question. I mean, everyone, we've got to go into this with our eyes wide open. Flexibility, the MHSAA has to do something that they really haven't done in the past, and that's listen to everyone and take a bunch of ideas, and it could be something wacky that comes out of the blue that just makes sense. And I think the key thing here is just patience and flexibility as we look to try to save the high school season.
Right, but the good news is, crap, even if it's a week long, 2 weeks long, everybody can play in the MHSAA playoffs, which is a pretty cool thing compared to some of the other models in other states. So
no question about it.
I've said that it's been a bad thing to do, and I didn't like some of those scores and whatever, the development piece, and maybe we'll bring you back next week. We'll talk about all the 300-mile rules, all those stupid rules that are probably not helping us develop. But this one, in this situation, might turn into a positive. What do you think, Drouin?
I saw something on Twitter a couple days ago, where the suggestion was to get home sites with a couple of fields, somewhere like a Country Day where you have 2 turf fields, or somewhere like Lake Orion where you have the girls' soccer field right next to the football stadium, a couple of turf fields, and bring in 6-8 teams and do it festival style. So you do running clock, 25-minute halves. Every team knows that they're going to play 3 games over the next 6 hours. And every kid that plays travel ball, every kid that played, youth ball, and they ended their season at a Lax Bash or a Cranbrook Black's jamming and this stuff, they're used to these formats. We just get a bunch of reps to one field. We know that we're going to run 2 fields side by side for the next 4 to 6 hours. And you know what? We do it festival style rules, and that way at least these kids can get a senior season, and these kids can actually have a final high school season.
Locy, do we just want to send them the link to the Zoom meeting or what?
What?
We can. It took you and I long enough trying to figure it out. Trying to get him on here might be even longer.
Yeah. Locy, you know how to do Zoom meetings, man?
Oh yeah, I do it myself. I'm working on my own background right now because when you do a Zoom meeting, you gotta have a sound.
Oh, look, my background's amazing right now. It's my clothing, my underwear. So
Well,
hold on. Let me send it to you. Let me hang up with you. I'll send it to you, and we'll get you in.
I just sent Locy the Zoom meeting through Facebook Messenger, so he's got it.
I like your idea of the. I really like the idea of doing the festival thing, man. It's a great idea.
I'd like to take credit for it. It wasn't mine. It was some dad on Twitter, and I don't even know if he was an Oakland County dad or Genesee or wherever. He just said, my son's a senior, and if we want to save the season, let's go to this route. We can get a bunch of games in a festival style, per weekend or however we do it. We could even set it up that if those high schools are coming and they have JV programs, bring them too. They can play afterwards. They can play during the downtimes. I mean, us as a ref, it's all hitting us financially too. We kind of count on this money for our vacation funds and our disposable income. So refs have no problem showing up to do a bunch of games all at once.
Oh yeah, they'd love it. I think that'd be great. I'd get into reffing some of those games. It'd be great.
Well, and that's the thing. If we're doing festival style 2-man crew JV games, I would have no problem grabbing. Well, you've actually refed before at a high level, so you're a bad example of this, of somebody to just throw in there. But take a couple of UDM players, get some of the U of M players, get some guys that are high level MCLA guys or D3 guys. We can train them in a weekend to say, this is how you're doing JV games. This is how you're doing youth games. We keep the Mishloa guys and the capital area guys and the Grand Rapids guys that have done the continuing education and got our MHSAA licenses. We'll focus on the varsity, and we can find some other people to fill in for some of the other stuff.
You keep leaving out the NIAI or whatever that is. Those guys. You keep
NAIA? No, I mean, of all the games I had canceled,
you guys are dedicated, man.
I had more NAIA games canceled than any other league. Now, granted, we had just started to get our high school schedules, and I only get a handful of NCAA games every year. But yeah, I mean, I had games Concordia, Lawrence Tech, Lords down in Toledo. I mean, I had a bunch of those NAIA games that just
these guys are dedicated, man.
Gone. They are. I mean, they can yell and scream at us just as well as you D1 guys can.
I don't do that. Come on.
So we're kind of all over the map, and Locy called to throw us off. But let me kind of, before we jump into too much more conversation with Locy, I'm going to treat you as if you're my first guest. So I know you. Anybody on the boys game in the Detroit area knows you. Give me we'll call it your name, rank, and serial number. Your name, your current role in lacrosse, and then I'll ask you a couple questions off of that as well.
My name is Chris Kolon. I play the bass.
Yes.
And I hang out with some really nice kids all day.
You're being very humble, but Chris Kolon is the head coach at Division I NCAA Detroit Mercy. He and I go way back to actually playing against each other when we were in high school. I think I was a senior when you were a sophomore or a freshman at Seahole.
Yep.
And,
sophomore, I think.
Okay. Then you played at Rutgers. And after that,
you stood on the sideline a lot.
Well, got to go see
Practiced
some cool
a lot.
in New York City. But then since you came back from New Jersey, you have been a player, a coach, a ref, a high school coach, a college coach, a travel coach, a club college coach. You've done darn near everything in the game, correct?
Yeah, jack of many, master of none.
Well, you are the original lax bum. So I want to ask a couple historical questions, just and I'm going to ask everybody these. This isn't Joe Rogan, a free-form 3-hour conversation. I'm structuring some of this stuff. Who gave you your first stick, or who invited you to play catch the first time?
My first stick was given to me. I actually took a picture of it the other day. Sent it to Sean Higgins. He couldn't name it. I was given my first stick by a guy, Chris Graham from Country Day. I don't know if Chris and Matt Graham. I think Chris played at Georgetown. Matt played at Roanoke. They gave it to me, and I took a couple of swings with it and threw it in the corner and never touched it again. That was, I think, in like 4th grade. And then ran track my freshman year of high school and, got my, saw no future in track. And there's Lax Locy. And my friend Paul Tilden, who is a great guy, he's a movie guy. He is a union movie gaffer in Los Angeles and a mountain climber now, gave me a stick, and the rest is history. So I'm a late bloomer in lacrosse.
Gotcha. And then currently you're with Detroit Mercy. In addition to where you got your first stick kind of thing, give me your favorite on-field moment as a player and favorite on-field moment as a coach.
Oh, geez. I don't have.
Putting you on the spot.
The next one for both. The next one for both.
The next one for both.
The next one for both. Next one for both, man. No, I've had so many great experiences. It's impossible to tail it down to 1 or even 5. I'm very, very lucky. Had some great moments as a player, great moments as a coach. I would do disservice to any of them. I like to think about what's now and what's next. So,
good recovery.
When I'm retired, we'll talk about that.
There's Locy. All right. So Locy, I'm busting Chris's chops about his history and his role in the game. And in all seriousness, you and I have not talked in couple of weeks. We haven't talked face-to-face since the Marquette game.
Correct. No.
And obviously since then, your program lost an assistant coach, lost your season. How are the kids? How are your seniors taking this? How are your captains kind of keeping them together? How are you as a head coach with so much invested in these kids and this team? How are you emotionally? How are you mentally right now?
I'm okay. These kids are so tough. They're so mentally tough. They put so much time into what they do and who they are that, this is just one little hurdle. If you can ride a bus for 13 hours, 4 weeks in a row, hearing this kind of burden on your shoulders is nothing. These kids do so many great things, and they work so hard that, I think they take this and say, okay, what's next? We can handle this, we can handle anything. So, obviously disappointment, all those kind of things that is natural. But, I know these, they're already focusing. I had a bunch of kids, registering for classes, starting their own workouts, doing all that kind of stuff. And we're going to let the chips pan out as they go. Some of the seniors were going to hang around and do master's programs. So half of them, guys like Alex Akins and Alex Jarzembowski were going to be around. Matt Turner were going to be around doing master's classes anyway and hanging around as continuing ed kids. And now they're going to get to play another year. For guys like Hebert and Trey and Jared Schultz that are ready, moving on to the next thing. It's a little bit sadder of a situation, and I still don't know how that's going to, pan out for them. But, they've given great service to the program. We're still going to do a banquet at some point, senior banquet that we always do. And sorry, Chris, it's Sean's gig now.
Hey, pass the court.
But we're still going to do a one downtown and have a great time and see what happens, man. Right now everyone's just trying to take care of themselves, worry about the online classes and and register for classes and get some workouts in and see what's next.
One thing I'll say about Detroit Mercy kids, I can say a lot about them, but in particular, they're a resilient bunch, and they're a gritty, grinding kind of bunch. You don't get a lot of kids that come from wealth and spoiled, and they're not looking for the luxuries. They're looking for the opportunity, they're looking for the chance, and they're looking to give back to the community and give credit to the Jesuit education, give credit to their coaches that they put together down there, give credit to the kids that are gonna continue to take on a full-time job while going to a Jesuit university in having a D1 lacrosse commitment. So I had a hunch that this wasn't going to be all doom and gloom down there, but I still feel bad for those kids, knowing how hard they worked and how much they practiced the season.
They're tough, and they're going to be ready for the next thing as soon as it comes, whenever that is, right?
Yeah.
Next opportunity to compete, next opportunity to practice, next opportunity to do anything at whatever level it is. That's how they're built, and I'm just lucky to be around them, So
yeah. All right, so our first official podcast and guest, Locy. I was telling Kolon before you hopped on that this is officially going to be the U.S. Lacrosse Michigan podcast. So there is a ground rule. We will watch our language. I know that I have a bigger tendency than the rest of you to slip an F-bomb into conversation, but as we have 7,500 plus constituents in Michigan, and we want to reach out to them, and we want kids and parents and coaches and officials and players and boys and girls and everything in between is a part of this. Let's try to watch our language so that way it's not completely free-flowing, but we definitely want to reach out. And so as we kind of go through this, I'm going to make sure that we get people from the west side, from the east side, from the boys game, the girls game, officials, Hall of Famers, high school players, youth coaches, travel coaches, everyone in between. So I am getting a little stir crazy here. As I was looking at the start of the season, coaching my 9-year-old son's team, my 10-year-old daughter going to start playing, reffing high school, reffing NAIA, reffing MCLA, reffing NCAA. I went from, oh my God, this is the busiest lacrosse season of my life, to
this.
What now? So
to this.
Yeah. So we're going to fill the time with
this
podcast. So John Locy on the call, kind of part of the I guess I would say you, Higgins, and myself are kind of the trio of misfits that support Chris Kolon and the Detroit Mercy program from afar, or
yep.
Sometimes just emotional support. Give us your quick name, story, background. You've become quite the internet presence when it comes to conversations about lacrosse. How did you get into the sport? What's your current kind of role? And tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And to be one of the first guests in this new adventure of podcasting for U.S. Lacrosse, I think is, it's a great honor for me. I've been approached a number of times about maybe doing a podcast just because of my, radio and TV background in terms of broadcasting. So, that's a great opportunity for me. I got an interesting story as it relates on how you got to lacrosse, because 9 times out of 10 people will say, well, you must have played the game. Well, you played the game. When did you play? Where did you play? And I didn't play the game. I went to Brother Rice High School, which I think the majority of people know, Lax powerhouse historically. But I moved from Big Rapids, Michigan. I was an up north kid. My mother moved me down here to go to Brother Rice High School to play basketball and to run track. And so, all my friends played lacrosse. I'd never seen a lacrosse stick in my life, and this is back in 1985. And so, even when they were playing, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't give it any mind whatsoever. I just thought it was silly. But all my very good friends that I'm friends with today played when they went off to college, Paul Cosgrove and Mark Carroll and those guys. And, as we went through life, obviously friends. And then as we started having children, I had a couple of sons, and I had a son, and my friend Paul Forberg, who everybody on this call knows as well, said, hey, you should get your boy involved in youth lacrosse. Get him a like a little stick for Christmas and a goal. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds like a cool idea. And I didn't have any gifts at that time, probably, or I was just late getting something. But so he gets it to me, it rolls from there as he gets older and he turns 8, 9. And now the Michigan Warrior program is, in effect right there with Stephen McNulty in the area. And so I get him involved in that. And really, I started by picking up lacrosse balls indoors at Locy High School, where Paul Forberg was coaching the 3rd and 4th grade Michigan Warrior team back in 2009. And I'm just standing there watching and picking up balls and throwing them back into the pile. And it evolved from there, where then I started coaching at the youth level, 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th, 7th and 8th. And then I got involved in doing the scheduling for the Michigan Warrior program as well, helping out there. Then kicked over to Brother Rice, started doing scheduling for the Brother Rice program. I do all 3 teams right now for Brother Rice, the scheduling across the board. And then that led into broadcasting, where it started with a cold, snowy day out in Baltimore, where, myself and another gentleman, Bob Rayon, whose son Daniel plays at Penn State right now, grabbed the phone and said, hey, let's do this. And it evolved from there to where now I'm really the voice of the Titan lacrosse program. And it's been a great ride.
And it's kind of interesting that in an era where, I actually have old VHS tapes that we converted to DVDs from my era. And it's hilarious. My dad was an executive at Volkswagen and had a VW van that he used to drive to the 50-yard line midfield of Orchard Lake St. Mary's Field, where our home field was at Brother Rice, and would stand on top of the cab with a camcorder and record our game.
Yeah.
And I have these on tape now. I have games with Bob Bowery reffing me against Mike Van Antwerp, who's the head coach over at Okemos. Or I've got games of me and my Brother Rice guys against CC. And that team is, the old coach at Cranbrook, Justin Ronayne, and the old Detroit coach, current Michigan State coach Matt Holtz is on the field. And it's hilarious how some of this stuff has gone from these old, grainy, choppy, non-tracking VHS tapes to now we're pulling up iPhones trapped in our houses doing a podcast on lacrosse. We're broadcasting games on Periscope. Or anyone that has got a camera and an internet connection can do this. So it's kind of been the Wild West when it comes to broadcasting this stuff, but I'm so glad that it's out there because we have games, we have footage. It's not just relying on, Memorial Day weekend. I mean, that used to be it.
Right.
You watch the Final Four and the national championship on Memorial Day weekend, and
was
it was the only lacrosse we got on TV at least.
Well, we got the U.S. lacrosse videos, right? I used to, you'd check out a game on VHS. They'd mail it to you. You'd watch it for like a week, and then you'd mail it back. They'd send you another one.
I didn't have that. I didn't know about that.
Oh, yeah, I used to do that. That's how I did that in high school all the time. That's the only lacrosse I ever watched.
So the first lacrosse that I ever watched was I'm in 7th grade at St. Hugo. Maybe I was in 8th grade. Ron Hebert, head coach at Langorian, Hall of Famer, was our science teacher at St. Hugo. And
Coach of the year last year.
Yeah, and Hall of Famer, legendary. We were joking on Facebook. We could do a 100-part series of interviews with Hebert just about his experience, his stories, his knowledge, his, whether it's coaching, playing, mentoring, U.S., Japan, he's been all over. But he used to have tapes sent to him, VHS tapes of games from college coaches that we would show up to class and there would be Dave Morrow in his, Brother Rice varsity sweater in Mr. Hebert's science room picking up VHS tapes to go watch with the team and stuff. I mean, that was so unheard of, but it's how we got exposure to the game.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's an amazing thing, especially from someone who didn't play the game, right? And to watch it where it was and follow my friends, and I'd go to, I'd go watch Mark Carroll and Joe Kelly out at Penn, and it's just fascinating to see the progression of what it's grown into, to the fact that, Brother Rice has their own dedicated lacrosse field. I mean, that itself, in terms of chopping away half a parking lot or even more than half a parking lot to put a lacrosse field in there, really shows the value and the growth of the sport in Michigan.
Yeah. Well, it was half tennis court, half parking lot, freshman football practice field.
Yeah, exactly.
Kolon, I'm going to make a commitment to you. This will not become the Brother Rice lacrosse podcast. Even though
it will not.
Everyone here knows that I went there and was a player and a captain and all that kind of good stuff there. This is
Notch.
about the state of Michigan. This is about boys game, girls game, getting exposure to lots of people. And, you know, we have
Notching both of you.
What's that?
I'm notching both of you.
Yes. Thank
Well,
you.
I had to lead in. I mean, he asked me my background. What am I going to say, Chris? Hey, I'm just this guy off the street who just picked up, you know.
Oh, man, you started working out with me and then you became a broadcaster.
That's true. That's exactly right. And I had a T-shirt named after me. Right? T-shirt
Correct.
everyone wants.
Yes, the official voice. I do have one of those ringer tees myself.
They're collectors. I'm telling you, you watch 5-10 years, those things are going to be hot.
So part of the reason why I wanted to do this, one was we have an entire list of Hall of Famers that have already been in the U.S. Lacrosse Michigan Chapter Hall of Fame. We have legends, we have founders, we have people that were elite players, coaches. But I also really want to start talking to people that are active in the game today that are not only participating, but want to give back more. A big thing that I'm really trying to push for 2020 is to establish the committee structure within the board of directors for U.S. Lacrosse Michigan and find people to really take the lead on coaches' education programs, sponsorships and fundraising, scholarships, first stick programs, diversity inclusion, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, man, let's keep it with what's going on now. Like the history stuff is great and people want to hear that stuff. I get it. But, let's talk about the people that are digging in the dirt right now. The folks working, in the city of Detroit, the people working, club programs, all the people that do all the work right now. Because I think that's the most interesting thing. Because sometimes I think with U.S. Lacrosse we focus a little bit too much on the history and not what is going on right now. Because there's so many people doing such great work.
No, you're absolutely right. I will say this though: I went to the MHLCA, the Men's Michigan High School Lacrosse Coaches Hall of Fame thing, induction thing, and hearing the original coach from Catholic Central, telling the story about he and Rob Ambrose driving around to the other Catholic League schools saying, we have a team and no one to play. We need you to start a program here at De La Salle. And the De La Salle AD going to Mike Jolly and saying, you ever heard of lacrosse? Do you want to be my first coach? There's some of that stuff that I think we need to get documented, that I think would be a lot of fun, just to kind of hear the stories. If nothing else, just putting Bob Bowery on here for a couple of hours and letting him be Bob.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
but,
Bob would be great.
I've now met a couple of people. Her first name's Summer, and I'm blanking on her last name, but she's the head coach down at Cass Tech's women's program.
She's got to be a shortlister, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that I really want to make sure that it's not just
be a shortlister. She's amazing.
Yeah. So if Locy, if there is a top 5 people I have to get on this thing, who's your kind of short list or top 5?
Well, I mean, 3 are on right now, so that only leaves 2, Chris. So now we're a little. No, I think to your point, to Coach's point on looking forward, right? I mean, lacrosse does, that's the. That's kind of the stigmatism of the sport of lacrosse, that it's elitist, that it's historic, that it's, and so when you look at what's going on at Cass Tech and you look at the growth going forward, I mean, there's a lot of validity in looking forward. And so, automatically your knee-jerk reaction is when you're looking at guests to say, all right, who in the past, right? So you obviously think about Hebert and you think, get Rob Ambrose on, or, you go that route, we can get Sergio Perkovic on. I think that would be a good get. But, I think you kind of go back to your thought process of, I want to have an official on, I want to have a coach on, I want to have a player on. And so I would look more of a structure than naming people right now, where I would structure it that way to make sure that you cover all your bases, because you can go down that rabbit hole and just start pulling people out all the time. I mean, Paul Cosgrove would be great to have on here, right? I mean, he's a hoot and a half, and, he's seen it all and done it all. Dave Morrow obviously would be someone. So, I think the structure is going to be the big key in how you structure it. And even on that point, we talked about how to structure the podcast itself. Maybe you break it into sections. Maybe we go, old school. You got a set amount of time for old school where you can relive the glory days, but then you move forward, and so you really have integral breaks in between where it's like, all right, that's it, we're done. Cut the clock off. No more talking about the past. We're moving forward.
Yeah, I'm up for whatever. I mean, the beautiful thing is there's no playbook on this. There's no rules.
Nothing.
It's
no swearing.
It's a cool kind of we're not.
We're going to get feedback from people, so have people give us feedback. Who wants to go on? I'd love to hear what's going on in Fenton. I'd love to hear what's going on in Grand Rapids. I'd love to hear what's going on in St. Joseph's. I'd love to hear what's going on. The team up in. I'd love to get the Northern Michigan women's coach on. People there's so many. There's such a diverse group. There's so many good people that are doing such great work right now. And again, since I'd love to do an old school section, then we can cut them off and then do, a section of what people are doing now. That'd be a cool way to do it. And then if we can, I don't know what the rules are, but we can get some, kids that played lacrosse, whatever the situation is. So, we'll just try to keep it interesting, right?
Yeah. And as we get kind of deeper into the rabbit hole of this stuff, maybe it'll kind of start to define the way it's going to go, or maybe it's going to more, figure itself out on its own. But like I said, let's just find some people. We're going to hit record, and we're going to put it out there. And whether it's old school, young school, new school, there's so many high school kids that are playing right now that I think just want to tell somebody their story, that want to kind of give us an update on what's going on. You look at some of these programs that are really doing well, places like Heartland. I want to get an update. How are they putting that many youth into that program? And those kids are developing and playing. And now, I don't want to get you in trouble, Coach, because you can't comment on players, but they've got some real D1 studs up there. And Heartland is huge right now. They, I think, would have made a run at the title this year. You're seeing D1 kids come out of Lake Orion. You're seeing D1 kids come out of non-traditional programs. It's not just Rice and Cranbrook and Country Day and CC anymore. It's especially Grand Rapids too, and it's places like the girls team at Rockford. I want this to kind of be a best practices suggestion as well, where we can get some of these people to share their thoughts and their insights on where they're finding success in recruitment and numbers and on the field success and in the classroom success, all of it.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's, you look at a program like, Flint Powers, right? I mean, that started a few years ago, and they've done some great things up there. Dr. Mike Carroll up at Traverse City, up in Traverse City, he's been driving that bus, in the upper part of Michigan for a number of years. And so, I mean, there's no question about that. Mike DeWitt over at Rockford. I mean, there's so many good people, and I've been blessed, just in the different avenues that I've been able to get myself acclimated or really known in this sport here in Michigan, just through the scheduling, and then also through the broadcasting, and then also social media on Twitter, where it's been great because it's easy for me to pick up the phone and call, Andy Gruber down at Cathedral High School in Indianapolis and have a conversation with him, or Mike DeWitt in Rockford, or, just down the line with guys in different areas. That's been, it really is a blessing for me to be able to do that. And I've enjoyed it so much. It's been a big part of my life.
Awesome.
So, Drouin, how many people can we get on this thing? How many guests can you get on at one time?
My cap for the product is 200 people per meeting.
Okay. So if Locy got a current person, you were in charge of the historical person, and I can be in charge of comedic relief. Is that fine?
Yeah, and the good thing is, as the host of the meeting,
something that's actually funny.
Yeah,
so you can can you kick them off when their time is done?
Yeah, and I can mute. I can turn off their video. I can do whatever I want. I hosted 30 people on a presentation or a networking group today, so Yeah, we could have some fun with it. The challenge is just
Oh,
get
for
finding.
sure.
Yeah. So why don't we do it that way?
All right.
Yeah,
And
I've got,
you do it that
and just to let you guys
way.
know, I've actually got a list of topics that I already created. I mean, I started to go down this road. There were some people that approached me, and no, and I wasn't just saying that just to, kind of smooch my own behind, but a number of people have said, hey, we want you. We need you on this because it'll help bring in their guests and facilitate kind of what they wanted to accomplish. And unfortunately, it didn't work out timing wise for me. But with you two doing this and with the U.S. Lacrosse, really the overlay of everything. I mean, this is a great format, and I think I'm fired up, and I just kind of fell into it today. I knew you were doing it, and I knew I wanted to be a part of it, but this is just something that I think has really got some legs.
As far as U.S. Lacrosse's Michigan chapter, we don't have funding from the national organization anymore. We're going to have to look for sponsorships. We're going to have to look for a way to promote ourselves.
This show.
So many players and coaches and officials are members because of their association requires it, their team requires it, a tournament requires it. But I really want to make sure that we start getting U.S. Lacrosse's Michigan chapter out there as people that they can look to for first stick programs, grants, training, education. And it's not just you write your check off to Baltimore and you never hear from it again. That we put a face and some leadership or some names and faces to the leadership of the Michigan chapter. I've been the president for all of 3 months, so sure, let's do it.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's the leadership piece. It's the it's the structure. It's how do you build this out, and you do it methodically. You do it slowly, because people like consistency, right? I mean that's how you build a brand. Is you look at a perfect example, Sean Higgins and Stenson Miller. I mean he built a brand on his own because he was consistent in his message, the T-shirts, and getting them to the kids, and just being that ingrained in the sport of lacrosse. It sells. And so for us it's the same thing. I think the three of us on this doing this right now, people are going to feel the passion, right? I mean you're never going to have a dull moment with the three of us sitting here if we do it this way or whatever it is. That you'll never have a dull moment. Bring somebody into this shooting gallery. I mean, look out. I mean people might not want to come in.
We're nice. We'll be gentle.
As long as Kolon stays in that laundry room, that's all I care about. I mean,
hey man, this is where my clothes. This is the closet under the stairs.
It's got to be
where
a
I get
staple,
sent.
because that is the essence of the University of Detroit Mercy lacrosse. You are under the stairs, but ready to rise at any occasion. You don't need fancy anything. We just go out and play.
I jam Econo, man.
That's right.
No. My biggest concern is what's going to be the theme song to lead us in and out of each episode, but I'm going to have to put some thought into that.
Well,
that's the most important thing.
It's going to be the Tragically Hip.
I'll leave that to you, Drouin.
Yeah, it's going to be the Tragically Hip for the Grateful Dead. That's a no-brainer.
I'll leave it to
you. The other thing too is when I started doing this, thinking about this, the coolest thing when I was growing up as a kid was they had on ESPN they had the old boxing show, where Bert Sugar and all those old boxing guys would sit in that smoky room and they'd sit there and talk about boxing. And
they're redoing it, aren't they?
Was to do that. Yeah, they're redoing it now, right? But my vision was always to get to that point where, maybe once a show or, one show out of whatever, depending on our schedules, that we have a central location and we got lacrosse, we got in the background and, we get a smoke machine or whatever we got to do. But, something like that would be really cool.
I don't think we're say smoke anymore. We have to say vaporizers, or we'll have vape in the background.
Yeah, right.
Or we could just a steam room, maybe. Oh
God. Yeah, we'll call the Shivets or whatever Patty Lynch's thing down.
U.S. Lacrosse does the Schvitz.
Yes. So, give me kind of a take, Locy. How are your kids taking the lack of lacrosse right now? Because even your daughter plays. Even what's going on with them? Are they hitting the rebounder? Are they doing wall ball? Are they? Yeah,
I mean, you've got, on the girls' side, the girls she's in 8th grade, so she'll be going to Mercy High School next year, and so we're starting to ramp up a little bit Sunday nights indoors. Rice was ready to go, so my son's a junior at Rice, and I think everyone is really, and I think this is really. We started talking about this early when I was on the phone, but I think everyone just doesn't know what we're going to do. Is the season going to be canceled, right? I mean, is school going to be canceled? And so I think this first week has been people just kind of getting acclimated to the new norm, which is, what are we doing, right? I mean, what's going to happen here? And I think, as we roll into next week, once we get through this weekend, in my mind, it's going to start to hit people. And then the discussions are going to start to happen a little bit more and more about, is there an end to this? And what is that tipping point? What is that drop dead date for the MHSAA to say, that's it, or school? What about that scenario where school is actually not going back? The sports continue. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows, but let's talk about what's been pretty cool is the amount of content that's been put on social media from just for free. So many pros and coaches and everybody has really stepped up their game with giving kids drills to do on their own. It's been nice to see John Grant Jr. doing stuff. There's too many to name. Deemer classes stuff. I've been watching that stuff. It's great stuff. I'm a big proponent of the Shake School Lacrosse. They do a lot of drills that I steal from good people. Casey, who runs that, it's an incredible coach and guy, but you can just see so much cool stuff out there. I thought that's been one of the nice things that's come out of this is we're all stuck, bored at home, and some guys are coming up with some really cool stuff that kids can go out and do on their own in their backyard. It's been one of the pluses, ones that want to do that. So
it's been such a pull the rug out from us, not just the fact that we lost our ability to coach and play and see our friends, but it's Thursday. This should be day one of the NCAA tournament. Like, I should be glued to buzzer beaters with my iPad open, another game on my phone, and a third game on my TV, and have the whole True TV, TNT, TBS thing going on. I'm following Twitter for college basketball and people doing their own tournaments through video games and guys like that are going to do the lax film room stuff. There's great drills, and I'm getting emails on a regular basis for officials on how we can do continuing education or stay active until then. My biggest challenge is, I bust my butt as soon as Christmas is over to get back in shape for the season. I've been eating like crap this week.
It's game over.
Yeah, come on, let's go.
Game over.
Good stuff.
Yeah. No, I think, it's the new norm as we go forward. I was one of the guys back in the day when March Madness would come out, and I'd go to Spectadium in Troy, right? Spectadium back in the day would be the only place in the area that would have every game. And so you'd have to get there and sit in the parking lot at like 8 o'clock in the morning until they opened the doors, and you'd be there till midnight. I feel like I was walking around a row by the time when I was there for 12 straight hours. And so, I think, again, next week is going to be the big week for the kids, and it's important for the parents out there. It's important for the kids themselves, because it's not the parents' responsibility to have you guys get up and do some things. But, it's the new norm, and I think there's going to be a lot of things that come from, this unprecedented situation in our country and tragedy and crisis, that people need to learn from this. Chris, Kolon, this. The way that I look at things now is with every piece of adversity, there's an opportunity. And this is adversity for our country and for every family out there, that you should be spending more time. I said this right from the get-go. This is forcing people to have dinner with everyone the same night, every single night.
It's awesome. That's the good part of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only day 4, and my 4-year-old and I have had a couple of battles, but, we'll see.
That's a given.
She's the leader in the family, as they say. She's the strong-willed one.
I would be a great lunch lady, man. That's going to be my next career, lunch lady.
Yeah.
Academy lunch lady.
As far as lacrosse goes, we know that the NCAA is done. We're waiting to see what the MHSAA may or may not do. I've seen a couple things like the Kaminskis brothers and their Lax Bash events and Lax events, whatever they're naming them. They've added a college division and a U19 division to their tournaments at the end of the spring, because they're not sure what the future may or may not hold for some of these kids. If they haven't touched a stick in God knows how long, give them a chance to actually get some games going. Assuming we get back to normal at some point, I'll be interested to see how those divisions shake out. If it's going to be like the old Vale days, how everyone just, tries to put together a super team based on their region or their college team, or what's going to happen. But I know they're trying to fill some of the void. Have you guys heard anything else about your kids or your, players looking to do something?
I know there's a bunch of guys going to Vale. I've got a group going and again, I'm not sure on the exact details, but there's some rules to that, how many kids can play on the team and everything like that. But I know there's a pretty good group of college kids going out with the Omnia label to Vale. I think it's a couple U of D kids, a couple kids from mostly Michigan kids. I'll get some details on that, but it's a pretty good mix of kids from bunch of college teams that go out there for that week. I think they were going to do that anyway, but who knows if that's even going to go on. So we're going to just wait and see.
Yeah, if anyone hears of anything, send it over to us. We'll put it out there. I'll do this as if my role as the president of U.S. Lacrosse Michigan is the same as my role as an official. I don't play favorites. I don't care. You got information. You got a tournament. You got a team. Assuming that it's above board and ethical and you're a U.S. Lacrosse member, I'll put it out there. It's just kind of about the community, and it's all supporting each other right now. So if you hear about anything from those guys, send it over. We'll get it out there. If Tominskis brothers watch this, and I'm sure Michael will send me all kinds of good, positive feedback on how we did. Yes,
he does everything right.
Mike's
does everything perfect. No one else does, right?
Yeah. Hey, as we're talking about that, I kind of want to ask Coach Kolon something as it relates to everything we're talking about, summer and whether this season or not. You're going to have a lot of kids out there, the 2020s and the 21s and the 22s out there that really have the potential to miss their entire school season. What do you think that does, or what do you expect kind of a fallout maybe from a recruiting standpoint with some of these kids, especially the 20s that really may not have a stick in their hand for a number of months that may roll into summer. And now I think that really puts a hindrance. So it's from a coach and a recruiter, what do you think about that? And maybe some advice for the kids out there too.
Well, here's the interesting thing with 20s. So 20s is kind of the end of the early recruiting kids. I mean, we didn't do that at U of D, but for some of the kids that were committed in 8th grade, that 20 class is that last class, and all hell breaks loose in 21, right? So those 21s, all the later recruiting rules kind of applied to them. So, and the talent level is just gigantic, right? I think the talent level in 20 around the state is great, but 21 is even more impressive. So, there's so many good kids, not that many spots. I think it's just all hell's going to break loose. I think it's kids are going to have to play great when they get opportunities, and they're going to have to get a little bit more involved in that process. And, I think there's some great resources in the area with some of the, high school coaches and clubs, and take their best swing at it, because there's just so many good kids. There's so many good kids.
Wow. Yeah. I think the one thing that's going to be really interesting is getting specifically back to this 20 versus 21 class kid. Locy, you nailed it. I remember being on Twitter 4 or 5 years ago, and I don't remember the kid's name. I don't remember his high school. I don't even remember which journalist covered it. But it was probably like October of the kid's freshman year, and he committed to Air Force. And this journalist is like, oh my God, huge get for Air Force. And I went, the kid hasn't even played a game his freshman year yet. We don't even know if he's made varsity. We don't know if he's going to get a congressional nomination. We don't know if he's going to have the grades to get it. We don't know if he's going to pass the physical to get into the Air Force Academy. Can we pump the brakes and not have this kid be a huge get for a service academy when he hasn't even played a high school game yet?
Right.
So I don't want to see us go back to the Wild West days, how 8th graders were getting recruited in summer to commit the fall of their senior year or their freshman year. But I'm wondering if the NCAA, just as they're giving seniors this year a potential fifth or sixth year of eligibility based on their season being taken away from them, if we can do something, or if the NCAA is looking at it, and again, U.S. Lacrosse, especially U.S. Lacrosse Michigan, we're not the MHSAA. We're not the NCAA. We are not in charge of tournament. Like, we are the governing body as far as insurance rules, that kind of stuff. But we do not have a direct line into Tom Rashid because I have, this title with U.S. Lacrosse Michigan. And likewise, as a NILO official, it's not like I get to call the NCAA and give them my opinion. I'm an independent contractor for them, and there are people in Baltimore that deal with the NCAA, but I ain't one of them. I'm just wondering if there's any sort of way to loosen up the restrictions on how you contact a kid, if you can contact a kid. I don't know, but like Kolon said, I don't want it to go back to the Wild West.
I think it's fine the way it is, man. I don't think there's any. I don't think most of the 20 kids are committed. I mean, we're still have a couple spots open that we're looking for kids, and it's unfortunate. But I think for the vast majority of kids, their 20s, most of them are playing for championships. I think that's all they were playing for. They're playing for pride and championships, and what's next for them is probably already set. So, I don't necessarily think it's that big of a deal. And the 21 kids, this is, guess what, man? Life isn't fair. Life is what it is. And, the strong will survive and the strong will rise to the top. And that's the end of the story.
Yeah. Have you heard?
And
I was just going to ask you real quick. Have you heard anything about transfers? So hypothetically, I'm a senior playing NCAA Division I lacrosse, so my season got canceled. They're going to give me one more year of eligibility. Can I take that as a grad transfer, or do I only get it at my school?
There's too much information that's not verified out there that I don't want to say anything right now. I know that kids are going to be able to play, and that's all I know. And that's what I'm going to stick with until I get better guidance from the NCAA.
Hey, and I wasn't meaning to put you on the spot. Well, like we've kind of said, we don't know what the new normal is. We're making this up as we go. My wife is the third grade.
Let's go back to the MHSAA thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
let's go back to MHSAA. How many games do we need to play before a tournament? How many? If you're going to do the MHSAA tournament, which everybody's in, so that's a cool thing this year, and everybody gets a shot at it. How many games do you need to do? Because don't they set the guy? Don't they set the 1 versus 30 or whatever the year before anyway? Am I right about that?
Well, the regions are already established.
Move it towards that.
Yeah, so the regions are established. You get
that's good.
Who do you got helping you there, Locy?
Matthew Locy. Say hello, Matthew.
Hello, Matthew.
Hey, everybody. I mean, well, it's twofold, Chris. I mean, so in my mind, I'm going, all right. I mean, as I sit here today, I mean, it's my opinion that not having a season is more likely than having a season, right? And so while we prepare and we want to be positive, which I'm very positive and optimistic, and I think, I had a conversation with a couple of coaches in the state of Michigan last week when this all shook out, and I said, listen, you guys need to get together, right? The coaches need to, you guys got to get together and you got to come up with a plan and a couple of different plans depending on dates and what's going to happen, because this has got to go right away, right? I mean, there's got to be, when green light goes, it's got to be, here's where we are. And then from there, the problem is that the state of Michigan, you just stopped sharing, Chris. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So, the state of Michigan, at MHSAA, we love them, but they've got to have something ready to go right away, because a day that goes by is a waste, right? So you're telling me May 14th is a long way away,
and hopefully everybody starts following the rules. It stays at home. We break the curve or whatever it's called, and things start getting better, and technology takes over, and everyone gets tested, and this starts heading the way it's heading in China and Korea, and hopefully we don't turn into Italy or whatever that situation is, and we could maybe get there, right? You could get there by the 14th of May. Now, how many games do we need to play before that? Is my big question. Right. Can you set this and start playing it?
Well, here's the thing.
Like, how nuts would that be, right?
Oh, you could do it. I mean, there's no question you could do it. I mean, here's what the complaint is going to be for. I'm not going to say the majority of the state, but a number of teams in the state is that, the Catholic League is restricted by their Catholic League games, right? Forest Hill Central and Rock, and so everybody's got their league games that they're always mandated by the state of Michigan, right? And a lot of those games are mismatches, right? A lot of them are, you got top to bottom different levels of programs. So, number one, I think the first thing that the MHSA has to do is they've got to get rid of the
Locy, what's an appropriate amount of games before May 14th? But what's the appropriate amount of games that you could do before May 14th?
I mean, it's an 18-game season is all they can play anyway. So, I mean, do you chop it in half and say 9?
Maybe.
Well, you can cut it in half. But here's the thing. Number one, I think depending on the time, the MHA has to consider dropping the 3 games a week rule, right? I mean,
100%.
And whether it's a staggered, like, okay, the first 2 weeks, if we've got 4 weeks, let's say it's 4 weeks, right? 4 weeks. All right, we got to do it. You got to give them a couple of days to get loose. The MHSA is not going to let kids run out there on day 1 and start playing games, right? They're just not going to for the safety of the kids.
Yeah, that's
so
not
let's
right.
say you got 5 days, 5 days like we do in the season. Boom, there's practice, tryouts, whatever you got to do. I mean, we're done with that. And then games start that first weekend. And so, it's a Saturday, Sunday you play, and the Catholic League has got to consider getting rid of the Sunday rule as well. And so, you got a couple of key things in that I think need to fall in order to be able to do this. If you're going to go that route. And then, Chris, you brought up earlier do you go a tournament route? I mean, you could structure it where every week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you've got the tournaments across the state where everybody shows up in their given area, and you're playing those games over the weekends, and you sprinkle in 1 or 2 during the week, where it's kind of like you got the regular way that we play during the week, and the weekends it's a little bit like speed dating.
Yeah. So how many games are there in a high school season?
18 is the max with you can play 4 scrimmages, so 22 is your max.
So 22 is your max. I mean, could you do it with 4 games and then get into the tournament?
So you're gonna have them play 4 games only, and that's it?
I'm just saying, like, would that be doable? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think anything is going to be better than nothing, right? I mean, so any amount that these
That's
kids,
my
because
point.
I mean, let's take a step back. I mean, it's not just about the games itself, but it's those practice days, right? It's about the camaraderie of playing with your boys, finishing your high school career on that team, regardless of where it ends up. So any day on the field for these kids playing with their boys is going to be a good day, and you squeeze that in as much as you can. They already said they're going to push it back to the 20th of June. So the 20th of June is when the finals are going to be. So they already announced that last week. So, I mean,
my point to you, John, is I disagree with playing 3 games in the week. I think that's way too much. I think, with student welfare and studying and all that kind of stuff, you got to keep a two game a week minimum or maximum. I think I'm not a big believer in 3 games. I think that's really difficult on parents, really difficult on kids.
Days.
I'd rather see less games.
It's 3 over 7 days right now. So that is the rule. Monday through Sunday is 3 games max is what the rule is today.
That's a lot. That's a lot of games.
But you got to understand.
Not everybody's as high energy as you.
No, I know.
You know how hard that would be for me to watch games?
Wait a minute. Locy's drinking Red Bull at 10 o'clock at night. Okay?
No.
That's so false. I don't know. Oh, wait. Am I on camera?
Yeah. I just think 3 games is a lot. I think 4 games would be crazy. I mean, I don't know, man. I love practice, so I think practice is a very special time for kids, and they need to practice. You know.
But again, I mean, you know, they're playing. You know,
so I'm a big believer that practice is where a lot of the magic happens.
To Chris Drouin's point, you know, I mean, these kids are used to playing summer and fall, where you know maybe the games on the weekend are tournament style. So maybe the games during the week are normal, you know, stop clock, quarters, the whole works. And the weekend then is that festival style running clock where you get those games in as well. And so really it's kind of a hybrid between the best of both worlds, because, you know, I mean, there's something to be said for the kids showing up at their own field at home, you know, warming up, putting their music on, kicking it, to showing up at, you know, at Country Day and playing, you know, 4 games in, you know, in 5 hours.
Yeah. Well, here's a couple of things that I don't think we have to change. They've already done all these regions, so we don't need to reshuffle the regions. Those regions are going to be the same whether or not we started the season on time or whether or not we push the finals back. The regions are already set. We already have the top seeds, you know, the preseason seeds already set.
So this is for the first time, actually, this makes sense. For the first time ever.
I agree.
Yeah, so
I agree.
They're going to push back the finals to the 20th. You know, as a guy that normally spends Memorial Day weekend bugged out up north, whether it's canoeing or with family or you know, I've been doing that since college. Do we say your guys are playing a Memorial Day weekend, or does the economy and the state of Michigan need the tourism dollars back into restaurants and bars and everything else, assuming that we're back to normal? I don't know. But if I'd like to think that if we're having these conversations, the powers that be are also having these conversations. The guy
that was my point.
Job in all this.
That was my point with with some of the coaches, the select coaches out there, that I really think that they should be doing something like this. And maybe we are the pulpit. You know, maybe we do get, you know, coaches from across the state. You know, a handful, you know, 4 or 5 top coaches. Bring them in here and we hash something out here, right? We get feedback coming in. I mean, you know, I think that's what you have here, you know, Chris Drouin. I mean, we've got a voice now, and I think, you know, with you and Chris Kolon and US Lacrosse, that, you know, we could bring in guaranteed 4 or 5 coaches across the state, and we could sit in here for an hour and hammer out what we think would be best, and go from there.
How about that's for the next one? Let's get that ready for tomorrow night. I'm bored.
Jeez, you guys just put a lot of pressure on me. It's Friday night. Maybe I was going to go out and take my wife on a date or something. Oh,
figure in the backyard.
Yeah. Who wants to watch?
Fire pit action.
It is a nice fun. I'll have to have you.
You can come here. I got Red Bull. You can come here.
Yeah. So I guess I'm willing to help be a part of the solution. I'm willing to help facilitate conversations, but again, U.S. Lacrosse Michigan is my role there as the president.
Sure.
I don't have a direct line to Tom Rashid. I have his number. I can call him. I've done, you know, games for him in the past. But I'm not trying to sit here and say I have the answers and you need to listen to me because I have the title of president.
It's facilitating. You're a facilitator, and you're using this as a place to facilitate discussion, to have people be able to come in and then comment on what we talk about. And it really is just you know, that's what it is. I mean, it's everybody coming together and using this as a great place to come together and make these types of, you know, have these conversations.
So here, let me throw something out there to you guys. This product that we're using, Zoom and Ring Central, powered by Zoom and everything, it has the ability that I can create rooms where I can have one major meeting where I can mute everybody. I can, you know, give somebody the floor so that they see whoever's talking. But I could also assign people to rooms. So right now, if I'm going to go back and share my screen again, if I wanted to have a room and say, I'm going to put Region 5-1, we're going to get Jerry Meador over at Bloomfield. We're going to get Hebert at Lake Orion. I apologize to Rochester or Stoney's coaches, but we get Tariglia and we get Casa and we get Suarez and we get all those guys and we say, join this call at 7 p.m., and then we're going to break your region out over here to see if you guys want to try to get some games amongst each other before the region starts. Or we break it out and say, okay, we're going to take the Catholic League and we're going to put you in a region. We're going to take the OAA Red and put you in a room, and you guys can have a conversation. I can facilitate this all at once as breakout sessions, but trying to find a way to get 133 coaches in these conversations, their assigners, their athletic directors, the MHSAA. Maybe I'm thinking two big top, of under the circus tent here.
Yeah, I think you're thinking too big time. The ADs are going to figure. That's what ADs are for, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's their job, and they want to play just as much as everybody else wants to play. They want to keep kids safe. They want to do all that stuff. So
they're
going to shake it out how they're going to shake it out.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the MHSAA is going to make the final decision. I think our goal in even talking about this now, and that's what was my goal last week with some of the head coaches, was get something in place to at least, because you're never going to get it exactly the way you want to as a coach. I mean, Chris, you know this as better as anybody, right? But putting something out there where you've got, here's your top 5 things that you want to have happen. And if you get 2 of them, at the end of the day, it's better than saying nothing and then getting none of them, right? And so I think that's where, to be able to collectively, from a coach's standpoint or whoever, the lacrosse community, to put something in front of Tom Rashid and the MHSA to say, hey, listen, we've been talking about this. We got all these people together, and we think this could work, right? Here's one path if the date is here. And it's got to be a movable date. That's the other thing. And so when you structure it, it's got to be, all right, you know what? If it goes past this date, then this number of games drop, right? And if it goes past this date, then the number of games drop. And then there's got to be a drop dead date. So when it gets to that point, then we're done, and then we go down, Route 66 over here, which is, who knows what happens.
Yeah. I got to think that if you got an official, a D1 coach, and an MHSAA dad having these conversations, you got to think that the other coaches are having these conversations too. I'd love to think, but
get that dad from Twitter. Get the dad from Twitter. He's smarter than all of us.
I'm gonna have to find. I mean, Darren.
And Drouin does have the mute button, and he can kind of throw people out too. So I mean, we can do whatever we want, right? Chris is the czar of this podcast.
Well, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put this on YouTube. I'm gonna put it on a podcast channel.
You're at an hour,
and we set an hour. We're already over that a little bit.
You added me.
We'll get this out on Twitter. We'll get this out on Facebook, and we'll allow people to comment on it, and see if there's any feedback about future guests, ideas for how do they save the MHSAA season. And hey, let's hope we can find anything. Anything is better than nothing. I hope nobody complains and says you should have done it this way when we're all just trying to make the best of a unusual situation. But
yeah, I mean, and in the end, Chris, I mean, you guys are just throwing this together. I mean, you're spitballing, right? I mean, the 3 of us could get together for 45 minutes before the next broadcast, and I guarantee you that they're just against that structure piece, right? It's like, okay, this is how it's going to be. It's just doing a practice plan, right? I mean, that's all it is, and saying add a couple things here and there, and this thing will get spiced up pretty darn quick.
Yeah.
Just got a text message from Sean Higgins. He put his entire inventory online. Took him 18 hours, but it's live online at StensonMiller.com. I know he used to do a lot of online stuff, but he kind of got away from it. But in this situation, he's back online.
Oh, yeah. Got to.
Check that out, man. How nuts is that?
Well,
I got it all on.
Good for him.
Guy's an animal, man.
I don't see the Titan John Locy T-shirts on there. That's all. That one should go up there as a prize, like the golden ticket for Willy Wonka.
Well, I guess if we had an unofficial sponsor, it would probably be Sean Higgins, just because we all have 100 different Stinson Miller shirts, hats, sweatshirts, hoodies, you name it. So I've got.
And I want to tell you guys, I saw you guys on Facebook or Twitter or whatever it was, where you guys said you had the oldest. I've actually got the first Stenson Miller T-shirt ever made. The first.
Come on.
Number one, uno. And you guys
I put my collection. I have right now, I think about 80 T-shirts. I'm gonna hang them up on the fence line at my house and do I probably don't. I've got some pretty limited edition ones though.
Oh yeah, no, of course. But I mean but you got to understand this one is like 001, but the thing is that, and I'll bring it next week so we can see it. But you know, the print is like goes all the way down here, and it's like a scuba suit. And so if you go in the sun, it actually sticks to your body, and you really can't get it off. And it's very dangerous. And Abby's got one, and she.
Oh, there's the voice. There's the Locy one.
Oh yeah. See now you got. I was gonna say, what's the white? You got a little white up on top there on the. Is that a different shirt?
The Locy, the ringer.
Yeah, I you know that one. That's like like a misprint in baseball cards back in the day, and because I didn't see many of those.
Oh, that must be the special one. And then I mean the
Clash one. I have that one. That's pretty limited. I have a Sex Pistol.
I like that one.
I have a Sex Pistol one too.
My
Stenson Miller. The Clash one is pretty sweet.
My 9-year-old son has the Sex Pistols album cover one.
Nice.
And I'm keep telling Higgins, if he ever does a Grateful Dead one, I think I know a couple of lax bums that would definitely buy it. But now that I think about it, I don't know if I've bought any Stenson Miller shirts. I mean, this is the limited edition.
But hey,
Day one.
See what? So listen, this is interesting right here. Just doing this, right? And so during the week or how often we do this, we put it out to people to put vintage lacrosse something or other. And then we pick a winner every single week for the coolest, vintage lacrosse, whether it's a wooden stick.
Not even vintage, man. Just the coolest thing that someone has, right?
Right, exactly. Right. So we'll come up with some sort of a name for it of, I don't know, we'll get creative with it. But, those are the types of things where it's a regular thing and people are following it. They're trying to find things, and then we give them a prize, and, they get to have lunch with me or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Well, if you're picking up the tab, it's a prize.
Lunch with Locy's great, man.
Of course.
All right.
Well, I can't travel for work now, so my expenses are, still a little this and that. So
I looked around the den, and I remarkably don't have much lacrosse memorabilia in here, but Kolon will love this one. Here, let me get that one. That one.
Yeah, I like that one.
This was
I'm seeing Locy right now. I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing.
This was my gift from the team. One year, they all signed a helmet and gave it to me for working the table for the game. So this
nice.
On the shelf in my office. If you look closely, where is it? Yeah. Chris Kelly signed the helmet strap with the Punisher logo.
Of course he did.
Wow.
Hey, he's doing great, man. He does a lot of layover. He's flying, I think, for United. He's a United pilot.
Good for him.
And he does a lot of layovers in Detroit. We get to see him quite a bit. It's nice to see him when we see him. So
that's awesome.
He's a man.
All right, so Locy, I will put out a tweet. And we will ask people to share a piece of vintage gear. And
it doesn't have to be vintage. It could be anything. I mean, I think just something lacrosse related, and the three of us vote on it. We got 3-person vote, so there's going to be a winner, and we come up with whatever. Maybe it's a vintage Stenson Miller T-shirt, or I just think there's things that we can do like that just promotes, casual interest. If they can't listen, at least they can still be involved in the show to tune in and see if they won or what they won. We'll have them come on and say hello. And, I just think, I think it's very cool. I'm fired up. I'm glad that I, pretty much just muscled my way into this. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, you really are.
This is very random.
All right. So I think that's it. I think that's episode 1. I think we're going to wrap it up. Kolon and I were supposed to talk to Carl Zimmerman sometime soon, too. He wants to do a face-to-face, but I'm self-quarantined.
Brother Carl. We'll get Brother Carl on this. We'll get Brother Carl on.
Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you, we could have so many different guys. I mean, what direction do you want it to go? Is it the Grateful Dead episode? Is it the, A Few Good Men episode? I mean, you can turn it around to movies.
every episode is the Grateful Dead episode if I'm on here. Okay.
That's true. There you go. Well, then maybe that is our theme music then.
Well, maybe we're gonna flip it around and we'll go boys episode, girls episode. We'll go college. We'll go high school. We'll just. There are no rules. We're gonna make this up as we go. And there's a lot of people home with some downtime.
No question. Yeah.
Let's start reaching out to people, and the three of us will get a group text going to find out. Maybe we say like 9 o'clock every Tuesday and Thursday night. We're gonna set aside an hour once we get the kids in bed and our day jobs locked down, and we'll do two of these a week. That's
yeah, I'm all in for that for sure. I mean, obviously,
all right, we're over our time. No one's listening anymore.
All right. I'll find out how to do outro music, but you guys sign off. Have a good night. Stay safe. Oh, one last thing.
Hey guys, thanks.
Nope. One last thing. Please keep Luke Grimsman's family in your prayers. A lot of you guys know Luke. He was an official on the West Side. Yeah. His father passed away. Luke is VP of U.S. Lacrosse Michigan for the last several years. He's a great guy and one of my partners in crime and great friends that I've acquired in this game. Keep Luke and his family in your prayers. All of Lacrosse.
Awesome prayers out to Luke.
He's one of the good ones.
Yep. For sure. And everybody else out there, stay safe. I mean, again, to everyone out there, do your part, right? I mean, do your part. Everybody's going to help. Everybody's in this together. Do your part, and let's get through this. And we get back on the field at the end of the day. Let's go, right?
Amen. All right, guys. Have a good night.
See ya.
See ya.